We are live once again, Thursday night, Carvers and Creators. Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 3 of Carvers and Creators, a weekly demonstration and discussion with pumpkin carvers, sculptors, and multi-talented artists. We please ask that you please consider giving us a like and a follow on the platform you're watching us on. And please let us know in the comments where you're watching from and if you have any questions for the carvers and our special guests. My name is Michael Mondragon. I'll be running the show, moderating comments, and chiming in from time to time. Let's meet the carvers. First, he is an artist and sculptor from Boston, Massachusetts. He is the 2019 champion of Food Network's Outrageous Pumpkins. Paul Dever, welcome.
Hi, everybody.
Golf clap.
Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday.
Next, he's a multimedia sculpture artist from Tucson, Arizona, and a finalist on Halloween Wars 2019 on the Food Network. Matt Harper, welcome.
Yes, thank you.
We need to build in some applause.
Yeah, exactly. Proud, right.
Our guests have been collaborators for over 20 years and 13 years with Maniac Pumpkin Carvers, if I'm not mistaken. They have elevated pumpkin carving from a nostalgic craft to an art form. Please welcome Marc Evan and Chris Soria. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hell yeah. Thanks, guys.
So, guys, thanks for having us.
Great being back. Yeah.
Welcome back. Yes, they were on episode 9. If you want to go back, we have no recollection of what we talked about, so this is going to be potentially the same episode. But yeah, I think we have a lot to talk about.
We sure do. But
let's go back to last week. Matt and Paul have some carvings. The subject was euphoric old age, and this was Matt's carving. Tell us about it, Matt.
That was an old kabocha squash. It was starting to actually go bad, so I didn't have a whole lot of room to get too deep. But this happy guy had some teeth, a bald head. You know, he was happy. You know, he was glad I finally got rid of the outside of the kabocha squash and found him underneath. That was it.
I love it. We got our opportunity to finally run some wrinkles.
That's right.
That's right.
We've been missing out a lot on those.
I know. Love them.
And here's Paul's from last week. This is
like
outstanding.
Yeah, exactly. I love that guy, Paul.
So good, Paul. So good.
How did you do? I'm so curious. I don't think we didn't talk about it, but how did you do the liver spots? Are just awesome. I don't know, that the skin texture just blows me away.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't hear the question. That's the first time in this entire show that I went.
Oh, the liver spots. How'd you get the liver spots to look so cool?
I just bought a real.
He's gonna keep us hanging.
He looks like he's. I'm pausing on purpose. That's actually really hard to do. To hold it for this long.
Well, yeah. No, this is a dramatic pause.
I love the ears on this one too. I imagine that he took them out of the back of that squash, but I love that it looks like there's a little bit of light passing through the thin cartilage of the ears.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. I love that too.
Yeah, everything dimensionally, this is so nice, and you know the texture of the skin is exactly something that leaps out at you. It's so good. Yeah. While we're waiting for Paul to get back, I didn't do a carving last week, but this week, whatever the subject is, I actually have this pumpkin that my girlfriend grew for me in our garden.
Really?
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
you have pumpkins, which is I'm driving to your house now. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, it's going to be a rough commute, but you'll have a pumpkin. Wow. Yeah, this is we just threw them in the ground, and luckily a couple of them have grown. So yeah, so I'll be carving this one maybe this weekend, nice. Depending on what the degree of difficulty with the subject is. Yeah. So while we're waiting for Paul to get back, he has our 4th member of Carvers and Creators with him, so we can't debut him. Did we have the wheel last time you guys were here?
No, we've seen the wheel on numerous episodes, but we missed out on it on the last go round.
Gotcha. I think we would have in the teens.
Yeah, the fun part of getting that is it's totally made us stretch to do things that we aren't comfortable with, and we continue to put things on the board that we are really uncomfortable with, and then just pray we don't get it, and then end up getting it every time. But it's the fun part of that is and he's back, and he's back.
Yeah.
No, we're just getting to the dreaded wonderful wheel, Paul. And there's Paul, frozen again.
And again,
Wow, it's actual graphic.
Yes.
Yes.
I thought it was like I thought you were gonna pull something out from behind the couch.
Well, actually,
Oh well.
Oh, let's do that now.
Let's get fancy.
There we go.
How's that? Behind a window. All right. So let's do it before I glitch out again. All right. So our choices this evening: royal, other guy, old age, zombie, aquatic, punk rock, guest choice, from outer space, primate, and devil. But we're going to start something new. We are going to give this week's guests the opportunity to fill this spot here because we just did old age. So we're going to get rid of that. So you two think of something, a subject for us to possibly carve, and I will put it on the board.
Yeah, and Chris and Mark. So we've done every type of Halloween themed thing we think, and we've taken them back off like zombies and witches and stuff like that. But don't let that taint your decision. Put us, it's getting close to Halloween as it is. Think of anything you can.
Are we doing that now?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
What about have you done quarantine yet?
Ooh, okay.
quarantine.
I may not be able to spell quarantine.
Q.
Yeah. Q.
W.
I'll just draw a little mask. All right, we'll put Q on the board for now. Because I think it's too hard for me to spell in little letters in a shaky little hand.
I
Quarantine.
like it.
That's
I like
cool.
it.
Okay.
That's interesting. Nice job, Chris. That's a good choice. Okay, so for the second spin will be the emotion. So we have suspicious, irritated, drunk, grizzled, perplexed, euphoric, charismatic, repulsive, sulking, and hysterical. That's what we've got, kids. And here we go. Oh,
Let's do it. Say a prayer.
Quarantine.
Of course. That Q is pretty heavy, right?
Yeah, I haven't
use
even
Dark ink on that thing.
Now I got to spell it.
Yeah.
Well, it's not going to be on here long. And hysterical quarantine, which makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Nice choice, Chris.
I'm writing that one down. Okay. That way I don't forget it. Okay.
Oh boy,
Nice
I gotta
carving.
think about this. How does one carve hysterical quarantine in one shape? Look at some interesting shapes here too. Look at
So
that.
somebody who went into quarantine and went nuts, something like that.
Yes, but you could incorporate some sort of appendage, McFrazzle staff. You could do a mask. You could do
An infected person.
infected person. Yes.
Ooh.
Oh boy, lots of options.
Yeah, too
Yes.
many. Okay.
All right, Mickey, take
All
me
right.
off the big board. I feel so exposed.
So, so if you're carving with us, please, we're going to give you 5 minutes. You can go get a pumpkin, squash, and another perishable item. Get your tools. We're going to go around the room and we're going to toast to our creations. Mark, are you having anything to drink tonight? Alcoholic, non-alcoholic?
I just have water at the moment. I might have to grab something a little more.
Some carving oil, as we call it.
Yeah, a little carving oil. Right. Creative juice.
Yes. Chris, what do you got?
I remembered that we do this from last time because last time I didn't have anything to toast. I forget what I grabbed from the fridge, but I was able to find the last lager in the house.
Amon.
It's Jamaican for beer.
Nice.
Matt, what do you got?
I have the last one in a group of Ballast Point IPAs. This one's grapefruit flavor.
Yeah.
So we'll
That's
see.
one of my favorites, and I think you'll hate it.
Well, I got a backup. just in case.
There you go.
There you go. That's more my speed.
Some Mexican soda.
Mexican soda, exactly.
Paul, what do you got?
I will be drinking an Imperial Sour called Nunchuck Taylor's.
Oh,
That's a cool
nice.
I'm giving them the old karate kick. And this is a, what is it? What do you,
Your
what do you
internet
call it
hates
when-
you.
What?
It's just, go for it.
When two beer companies work together, what's that called?
A collab.
Collaboration. Good.
Yes.
There we go.
Oh,
Look
I
at
have
that.
I have a Chris Soria beer can from what brewery is this? Civil Society Brewing Company.
Wow.
Florida.
Right on.
That is
beer labels
awesome.
That was a limited run, a very tasty brew.
Right on.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That is amazing. Mickey, what are you drinking?
I have a Everyday Zombies. It's from a really awesome, very artistic group called Paperback Brewing out of Glendale, California. So yeah, so this is a double dry hopped West Coast style IPA. Has everything I like, and it has 7% alcohol and 70 IBUs. So that's just nerdy beer talk. So yeah.
I can never
So
find
cheers to everybody. Cheers to all of our work.
Clean.
Cheers.
Clink, clink, clink.
Yeah, I don't think I got to say mine. Mine was mine just says 8%. Doesn't never gives me the FLUs, whatever that is, IBUs.
The IBU. Well, and a sour probably wouldn't have it.
I hope not. That would be a pretty
Yeah, that'd be a hoppy sour, which.
Mine is 12 FLOZ. Just like
Yeah, I love when you do that.
That seems to be your wheelhouse.
There you go.
Yes.
That's all I know.
Oh, it's fizzy.
Awesome. All right. What
Yeah.
the hell am I going to do?
Good stuff.
Okay. How am I going to do this?
Well, I showed this picture last time,
I know,
so we are doing a bit of a rerun in a sense. But I wanted to, like Matt and I are childhood friends as well, and Paul and Matt seem like they've known each other forever at this point. So. I love pictures like this because it shows the artistic journey. So for those who didn't see us the first time, tell us about these.
Well, the picture of me with that that skeleton Grim Reaper pumpkin was one of my first that was really intricate and I was really proud of. But the story behind the picture on the right is a lot more fun. That was when we were in high school, and the school let us take over a big portion of the school and create a haunted house, and we went all out Maniac style, and probably some of the roots of Maniac Pumpkin Carvers in that moment. But we transformed this section of the school into a haunted house and had a lot of wild ideas that we came up with our friends. And one of the ideas was to do a Texas Chainsaw Massacre section, and one of our teachers, we had some cool teachers. One of our teachers was like, "I've got a chainsaw, and if you take the blades off, you can still, like rev it, and it sounds like it's really gonna hack people up, but it's not gonna cut you." And so we had fake blood, and we were chasing each other with it. And I mean, Chris was terrifying. He really got into the role.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're expecting you're going to a high school production of a haunted house. You're not expecting some frazzled kid to be whipping out his chainsaw and the motor running and then digging into the other guy. But this section, I mean, the photo in the back, this was like the part of the haunted house that went outside the school, and then it kind of went back in and snaked around through this like large area that we took over. And, each section was like a different theme. So we had like alien autopsy room, and then we had like the haunted living room, and then we had the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So this was the part where it went outside, and in this photo, it's just like tarps because it was from the rain.
It's pretty.
But the different rooms, like we actually made props and like brought in furniture and created a pretty cool makeshift haunted house.
So cool.
That was kind of preceded the our pumpkin production, but was in line with our fanaticism about Halloween. And since then, even before like we really started pursuing pumpkin seriously, we used to throw these like really cool Halloween parties that we would create these different props and costumes and things that was going to be present at that Halloween party. We would like stack a pile of used televisions and spray it with spray paint, and then like scratch into it so the static, is the image, and just like get really excited about just things that we could do with what we had and like what we had lying around, and what we could run with our imagination with. And we've always been like really into just having fun with the holiday, and that definitely coincided with spending a lot of time making pumpkin art.
Yeah,
so cool.
The things they let you get away with back then. My God, can you imagine now?
Yeah.
Oh man.
For a teacher to say, I got a chainsaw for you.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is,
parents ran out crying. It was like,
and this was a tradition at the school, and unfortunately, to the detriment of our own success, this was the last year that the school did this thing, because they got so many complaints by parents who's like, kids were terrified and they were terrified themselves, and then after that, they changed it to the like happy carnival event for Halloween or whatever.
Fall festival.
We took it as a badge of honor, though. We were like, when we heard that it got banned because of how scary it was, we were like,
the forefathers. I also like that your teacher says you can take out the teeth in the chainsaw. Didn't follow up on it. Just says you can.
I think he gave it to us with the blades already removed.
Okay, good.
That was the very responsible thing to do, because otherwise, who knows what could happen.
Definitely. Well, I mean, and then these kids turn into these kids, right? And then eventually collaborating on bigger and bigger projects. Doing. You guys are doing incredible work with etching, with carving. Now, and I'm sure we've touched on it before, but the actual studio, how did all that come about? I mean, was it from super demand, or did you guys just say put your shingle out one day and it was just, here we are, let's do it?
Chris, you want to tell the?
Sure. I mean, at the time, so. Yeah, this is our Maniac Pumpkin Carvers 13th official year as a business.
Right.
And, early on, at the time, Mark and I, who have been friends since we were 12, we were actually roommates at the time. And, the first, in the beginning, we were carving pumpkins just for the love of exploring this new exciting medium. And, we were working in the bar and restaurant industry in the city, and we would bring we would have a handful of pumpkins that we would carve each year and bring them with us, or like drop them off at like our friends who were bartenders and worked at restaurants, and kind of had fun with it like that. And people were starting to order here and there. But our first big corporate client, and we definitely might have talked about this in the last episode because it's a story we often like to tell. But our first big corporate client was the New York Yankees.
That's right.
And they had found out that they were playing in the World Series. They made it to the World Series. And Yankee Stadium wanted 50 custom World Series pumpkins carved for each of their skyboxes for Yankee Stadium for Game 1 of the World Series. This one was actually a number of years later, but also a World Series logo. And so, we weren't necessarily prepared or ready at the time to do such a big order. But, especially at the last minute too, the game would have been in like 48 hours or so. And, but we said yes. And, we called up a whole bunch of friends who helped us scoop and, carve the pumpkins. and we carved them out of our small 2-bedroom Brooklyn apartment, you know, in the kitchen, in the living room, in our bedrooms, in the bathroom, on the toilet, on the sink, you know, pumpkins everywhere. And we satisfied the order. So, you know, the definitely the first few years of Maniac Pumpkin Carvers were done with the space that we had available in our already very cramped living space. And then after that, you know, we started to seek out, you know, outside spaces that we could expand our operation.
So cool.
Yeah, one thing that I love, and I love you guys just kind of give us an example of this, but is a lot of folks that watch our show regularly, and I'm just honored that I can include you guys in that group, but love hearing the origin stories, and we talked about it. But one of the things you guys were unique to do is the we'll call it guerrilla marketing, and I think we touched on it last time. But the stories are epic, and I'd love you just regale us with one of those, like how you took an idea and then and made it kind of leap forward into to something really cool with a cool client in the future by just doing that guerrilla marketing.
Well, you know, there's been so many instances over the years from like us carving different things and showing up in parks, or, you know, one of the really cool ones was Chuck Palahniuk was doing a big event in New York City. One of our favorite authors, the creator of Fight Club, and
wow.
so many other great books and films have been based on his work. And he was doing a book release in New York, and we showed up early and, you know, walked in with a pumpkin like we were supposed to be there, and set it up on the stage, running chords, you know, like lit up. And when he eventually walked in, you know, he looks at the pumpkin and he's like, "What's that?" You know, and he like, we got a couple of photos of him there with the pumpkin. And then he started, you know, his whole like reading and performance. And then we waited till the very end and got to meet him and got a quote. He signed our books with finding immortality one pumpkin at a time. You know, it was the best quote that we could get. Yeah. And you know, just stuff like that. Like we did that. We would show up at places with pumpkins for people and you know, just set it up and create installations. And then by doing it, we started getting hired to do it. You know, it's almost a similar story how we got involved with the Museum of Modern Art, which is crazy. You know, that's probably the biggest success of our guerrilla show up with a pumpkin. You know, we had a friend who told us who told us like where to go with a pumpkin when we got there and who to deliver it to, and we had a little bit of an in to get through the first doors.
All right.
We delivered a pumpkin to MoMA, and it was the first one we did was Starry Night, and it made such a wave. It was like their most popular thing that they ever posted on their social media. And you know, this is the Museum of Modern Art in New York, huge, millions of followers.
Where they have the real Starry Night pumpkin.
Right, the real Starry Night. And our pumpkin got more likes and shares than the real Starry Night. So then they started expecting us to show up with pumpkins every year and
take that,
calling us up being like, "What can you do for us this year?" And so we did like, I think we did 9 or 10 years in a row of pumpkins of artwork that is in the museum. And they would, you know, display it at one of the entrances, and it was such an honor doing stuff. And you know, like major art critic Jerry Saltz would always take a photo with the pumpkin. And
oh my god,
yeah, just super cool. Last year during the quarantine was the first time that we didn't do it in a decade, pretty much.
Wow.
So yeah, we'll hopefully have one this year.
It wasn't until like 5 or 6 consecutive years of carving a pumpkin for MoMA that somebody internally asked the question, like, who called these guys to bring a pumpkin? Not realizing that you know, we kind of presented it initially as like, you know, we're just bringing you the pumpkin, like they ordered it or right. They asked for it, but nobody ordered or asked for it. You know, we just kind of took it upon ourselves to to impose our artwork on this prestigious museum.
That's so great.
And they owned it, like we would bring it in, and then the week of Halloween they would have that pumpkin present in the lobby. That was always, every carving that we did for them was always a work of art that they have in the collection, or that they had currently in the collection. So we've carved, Picasso, Van Gogh, Matisse, Magritte, just like a lot of really classic, recognizable artwork that that was always a really interesting challenge, because as you guys know, certain things lend themselves to being carved in a pumpkin, and then certain things are just like an odd thing to carve into a pumpkin, or certain types of artwork you're like, oh, how am I going to translate this now into a pumpkin carving? But so that's kind of always a fun thing, because they're not always necessarily photorealistic subjects or painterly subjects. Sometimes they're more abstract, or in the case of Rene Magritte's Treachery of Images, the pipe, it's just kind of this minimal thing, and then it was in French in the bottom. It says, "This is not this is not a pipe," in script, and just gaining further appreciation for these artists, also, of course. But I think for the medium of pumpkins, in regard to the context of Halloween and the type of guerrilla marketing that we were doing early on, and really still do. It was really a lot of fan art of a lot of pop culture subjects that Halloween presented the opportunity for us to kind of have fun with. It's like Halloween is the time of year where people dress up as other recognizable people, or are celebrating some aspect of pop culture. So it was the time of year where we could have fun on doing renditions of album covers, and like kind of just playing with music or album artwork that we're into. We're like Star Wars and horror movies and comic books. We've done so much artwork kind of celebrating other artwork and other artists' artwork that I think it was only inevitable that a lot of those would kind of follow up with some degree of appreciation, from those people or from their audience. So, I mean, in a sense it was guerrilla marketing, and in a sense it was just like, art appreciation that, we would share with, whoever we had the opportunity to share with.
That's awesome.
So to tag on to the fact that we were carving all these other artists' masterpieces, carving, trying whatever medium it is, doing a copy of a masterwork is such a time-honored tradition among artists to level up and really try and understand their favorite artists. You go to museums, are always drawing and painting in the museum, studying the masterpieces, and it's really an unbelievable learning tool to try and replicate, one of the great masters. And so to do that in pumpkin and really switch to a completely different medium with different properties, but still try and capture the spirit of the original piece, it was always such a fun challenge, and it really forced us to try to do things that nobody was ever doing before with their carvings. It was really a great tool for us. And so every time that we would do one of these pumpkins for MoMA or an album cover, it caused us to really just think outside the box, try and do things differently. And some of those works of art we've done more than once, and it's amazing to see what Starry Night looked like, or Magritte's, the pipe, 10-year difference of us growing. It's really cool, having those archives to dig through.
That sometimes we even ask ourselves, because we'll we've carved Starry Night several times. Sometimes now that it's present on our website, sometimes people will order it. They'll be like, I want to Starry Night, and now several of our team has carved Starry Night. So then we look in the archives, or they're all really cool, but sometimes we're like, who carved this one? Did you carve it? Oh no, he carved it. And it's all. I mean, every pumpkin is a different canvas, and then of course every carver, has a different eye and a different hand. But even when the goal is to really capture the essence of that work of art in a pumpkin, and they're all fantastic. They're all kind of different interpretations of the artwork. It's cool to contrast and compare.
Oh, I bet. Speaking of leveling up, I got a question about that, because we talked about this briefly yesterday. When you talk about switching, like big shifts of switching gears from the work you do during the rest of the year to pumpkins, I know you talked about how you feel like when you get to doing pumpkins again, and it's not like knocking the rust off and learning to ride a bike again. It's now you have a better appreciation. You're actually a level up. I'd love to hear kind of more about that, because that's so fascinating, because I just mess with these guys. I don't really ever get into the other things. So I'm thinking maybe if I follow that lead, I could actually level this game up too.
Well, one of the things that we should probably mention is that me and Chris and all of the artists that are on the Maniac Pumpkins crew, we're all full-time artists working in a variety of different mediums, and so we have different backgrounds, different disciplines. You can see some of the paintings behind me and behind Chris. We work in a lot of different mediums and explore a lot of different territory with our art, from small canvases to huge murals, and then pumpkins is one of our favorite mediums too. And so having these different seasons that our art kind of gets to switch to, we go through these really intense periods of working on one medium, getting really deep into it, and then it causes you to think a little differently when you switch to a new medium. And so it's always like a little nerve-wracking when you switch mediums, because you feel like you have to relearn to some degree what you're approaching. Right. But I feel like that almost every time I start a pumpkin, or every time I start a painting, there's always this little bit of like, how do we do this again? And then you dive in and it all comes back. And like, if we're starting pumpkins, but I've been painting portraits for a few months prior, which is what I do a lot of, or landscapes, all that knowledge of light and shadow and depth and form then goes into the pumpkins. And then, after pumpkin season, we are playing with different concepts, and I bring the knowledge of the way pumpkin handles light and form and shadow and depth, and that all goes into the paintings. And it's like this constant cycle of each project informing the next. It's really, it can be challenging, going from one medium hard stop to another, but there's also a lot of interesting crossover.
One thing, as someone who's beginning, and I know that we have some people that are beginning and some people that are more experienced, but as a beginner, one of the big things that I've had to overcome is actually knowing what my tools do. So I have a whole bunch of tools. I don't know what etches, what digs, what the depth and all that stuff. I have an idea when it comes to the brushing, because I see when Paul does a lot of his finishing, he uses kind of a brush. Matt uses this kind of like it smooths, so it's like a really thin piece of metal. And I think that one thing is it's kind of like being able to go back to the tool and have that remembrance of like what it does and how it does it, and then bringing being crossover as well. Yeah. So is there anything that you can speak about that?
Well, one of the things that's so important is just practice. You have to play with a variety of different tools. And when we were first approaching pumpkins, there was no, there wasn't a lot of examples of what to do when we were getting started. So we were coming up with a lot of techniques and trying to push the envelope. and using things that were very unconventional and just trying everything to see what worked. And over time we developed our techniques, and then like we've been doing it long enough that like now there's a lot more resources of and a lot more conversation between carvers. So so many of us have now met in person on various like shows and events, and we all pick up little things from each other. And I know like every time I see someone use a new tool, I want to order it, and I know you guys have that same problem.
Yes.
So we all learn from each other still. It's with art, there's no ceiling. You always can keep learning more and growing.
I'm thinking about the very early days, like 15 plus years ago, when we first started this, like the etching, when we first started working at etching, and it was like, well, I have 7 candles in my pumpkin. Do you think it'll be brighter if I put 8 or 9 candles in the pumpkin? And it was like, yeah, like Mark's saying, I mean, there wasn't too many other people, working in this medium to even kind of like share what they learned. And, we were kind of, learning it on our own, like really trying to figure out, how to work with the medium, what the medium was capable of, what the different tools did, and how to go about planning and preparing the pumpkin and executing it. And now, we've definitely gotten a lot better for sure, but there's a lot more artists working in these mediums, and finding different techniques and whatnot. So we can all learn from each other.
Yeah, and I mean, and doing something like this, is obviously a much different approach. When you go to something like this, and then but also, and I'll show some stuff later that's more paint related that you've been doing recently. That's super fantastic, and bringing all these techniques in is like it's super impressive. And most people I know, and I'm gonna say this up front. Like I'm gonna put this out there. How much time do you invest? Do you have to be really efficient about your time, about how you do things? Is that a big concern? I mean, I'm sure for all artists it is. It's not doing something too much, not doing it too little, but putting in the required amount of time to learn it as well.
Yeah, I mean, definitely efficiency of time is we are mindful of that. Certainly, at the height of the season when we're operating, managing a studio for sure, and there's dozens of pumpkins being carved and numerous orders, and the time efficiency of our team carving, and how long it should take to carve a certain pumpkin is always kind of on our minds. And then of course the pumpkin is telling you that too, because you could spend a few weeks on a canvas or on a piece of clay, but you can't spend a few weeks on a pumpkin. So once you carve into the pumpkin, you already know that the clock is ticking, and you probably need to finish this pumpkin in one sitting, if not the next day. That being a stretch, like you should really probably finish the pumpkin within the day, because the next day the constitution of the pumpkin has changed from the previous day, and it's starting to break down, and it might not respond in the same way to how it was when you were cutting into it the day before. So definitely a more detailed carving, you're preparing yourself like, okay, this is going to be a 4-hour carving. Maybe it'll be even a longer carving. But kind of having that in the back of our mind is certainly always there when we sit in front of a pumpkin.
There's also, there's the difference too with, we aren't doing this as a hobby anymore. When we first started, it was just for fun, and that allowed us to take a lot of liberty with how we learned and how we grew, how we experienced our growth. But it's been a business for 13 years now, and to be profitable, we have to make sure that things are done in an expedient amount of time. We got to put pressure on ourselves to get them out the door. We also, because it's often a product for a client, we don't want them to be sitting around in our studio. We want the pumpkin to have as much time. They're so perishable. So like if a pumpkin's gonna last 5 days, we don't want to spend 3 days in our studio. It's got to get out the door.
Yeah. Speaking of that, talk to us about like shipping them, because I've had friends ask, "Hey, can you send me one?" I'm like, "Well, you live in Dallas, I live in Arizona. I guess I could." I go, "Do you have a deep enough bank account where you can pay for a 60-pound pumpkin in the mail?" It's like I try to pack it, and because I know you guys do that quite often in the midst of your season. What's that like, shipping these things? And it's got to be a nightmare.
Well, we discouraged it for so long. We had clients who were asking us if we shipped, and we kept saying no, and we didn't want to do it. And then we finally figured it out, and it really just came down to us realizing that there were people willing to pay the exorbitant amounts that it takes to get a pumpkin somewhere quickly enough. And so if you wrap it up tight and put it in a box and ship it overnight, we make sure it gets really safely packed and everything, but we send them overnight so that way they don't spend a lot of time sitting around in a box. And we've gotten, we've had to form relationships with the people at the FedEx and UPS stores, because you walk in with a pumpkin and they're like, "You can't ship that." And, they try talking you out of it. They don't want to do it, but we figured out the way to do it now. And
back off, pal.
A lot of
this is getting on a truck. This is.
Now, are we talking hundreds of dollars, or are we talking thousands of dollars?
Hundreds. Yeah, hundreds.
Hundreds?
Yeah.
Interesting.
For something that's going to be gone in a few days, it's wild.
Yeah.
When you paused for a second, I thought there was thousands of dollars.
Sometimes, sometimes the client does want more than one pumpkin. Sometimes they want multiple pumpkins. Obviously, then it's even more expensive. But it is, it is kind of a crazy process to like package a pumpkin, and you package the stem and make sure the stem is protected, and then make sure it's in a box where it has plenty of cushioning. And they end up they need to be overnighted, so they end up being handled by less people than if they were being transported over several days. But we do it in a manner that it arrives at the customer, and they end up getting it in the same condition as we packaged it.
Yeah. So McFrazzle Stash asks, what was the first night that you shipped? What was that? What was it? Were you guys freaking out like the first time you ever did it?
Yeah, it was definitely a little nerve-wracking, but after doing it a few times, we felt pretty confident, and now it also just it helps having a relationship with the people who are at the FedEx and UPS. They make sure that everything checks out and is secure before we pack it, and we've got our custom packing stickers, our fragile handle with scare maniac like stickers that we slap all over the boxes, and we have fun with it. It's like we want people, when they receive one of our boxes, to get excited about opening it up. So we pack a bunch of stickers all over, and we just have fun with it.
Right on. And real quick, how many carvers are on your Maniac team this year?
That's a good question. We're still sorting out the final roster for this season, but it always varies. We've got a core crew of like 6 or 7 awesome artists, and then we normally have between 10 and 15 people working in the studio at some point each season.
Right on.
Are the people you bring on to the team, are they folks you've known from years gone by, or friends from art school, or what's the typical makeup?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the carvers, we are based in New York, so
Right.
there's a lot of artists in New York. And we have over the years worked with really like a wide variety of artists. We've worked with fine art painters and realistic, painters. We've worked with, printmakers, and, artists that work a little bit, do a lot more graphic design type work and illustration, a lot of different styles. But a lot of the artists that we're both friends with and have employed to work for Maniac have been involved in some form in the street art scene in New York, as well as mural painters. And I mean, that's, it's kind of been that way just because those are a lot of the circles that Mark and I are immersed in. But we also found that, with the street art scene, oftentimes a lot of these artists have to work very fast because you're in public. Oh, yeah. You only have a limit. You're not inside your studio where you can take time. So, especially the figurative, realistic painters that paint big murals in a relatively short period of time seem to also pick up, working on a very highly detailed image in a pumpkin that you kind of have to do in a relatively quick period of time. So we've worked with a lot of street artists. I mean, a couple of the artists that we've worked to are Yale graduates. So we've worked with, a lot of seasoned and successful fine artists. A variety of skill levels. We work with artists that are very, proficient in realism. And then we've worked with artists that, do a lot more, like I said, a lot more graphic work. And we also do a lot of, we sell a lot of pumpkins, but we also do a lot of events. So, we work with creatives that are good with people and, working with children and, working in that capacity. So, our range of skill set, but they have a wide range of personality, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so like,
go ahead, Matt. No, go ahead.
When you said the different, so you have a ringer potentially that does really good 3D sculpts. Then you got a group that does really great etching, and you kind of have them, and you have other folks that just do really good graphic stuff that are. So do you kind of have them cordoned off like that, or do you just kind of make them be jack of all trades?
A little of both. Me and Chris both do a little of everything or a lot of everything, and then we try. We among the crew, we try and put people on projects that we know are going to be a good fit and have a high success rate. It's another one of those things where like we can't really, during the crunch of the season, we can't afford to mess up. So we need to make sure that we plan appropriately, and we're not going to put a graphic designer on doing a portrait for a celebrity portrait. It's just we need to know that artists that work for us, like where their comfort levels are, what their proficiency is, what their skill levels are, and then we use them accordingly. And it's like we have some artists that just crush portraits and don't want to do a logo, and they're just the clean lines don't work so well for them, and then vice versa. And then there's artists that are just good at everything. And we also have some artists that have started out with us when they were like 18, 19, started out on a very intern level, and then became phenomenal artists. And we've watched these kids grow up into like just great, all like well-rounded artists, and it's been exciting watching them do amazing things. Adon and Eric, and we've Jose, these guys like kind of came up with us, and just now we're doing such great things in their communities and beyond. It's really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we and speaking of that, and I know everybody kind of really loves this medium, everything that you're doing as well. So I'm gonna put this up here. But there was a question actually. Where can we find a schedule for the carving classes? So I know that you spoke about this before. The classes that you've been doing have really been doing well. Obviously, this is pre-pandemic; it's all online now. I'm assuming, correct?
Yeah, we'll actually have a few in-person events and classes this year that will be done in depending on where we're at and according to regulations. But we did a ton of online and virtual events last year, and it was really exciting for us to translate what we do in person to the online format. And it actually gave us the opportunity to really add to our presentations and introduce more multimedia. And there were really some benefits to us going online. And we had wanted to do it for a long time. We weren't sure if there was enough demand for it. And then all of a sudden, last year hit, and we were like, how do we pivot and make sure that we, when people were saying last year, Halloween's going to be canceled, we were like, you can't cancel Halloween. It's not something that can be canceled.
No.
It's a concept, it's not something that you can cancel. And so we were like, how do we make Halloween awesome this year? And we did everything online, and we had a blast. People who took our classes had a blast. In regards to when we'll have some classes this year, we're booking right now a ton of awesome corporate and private events. And we'll announce as we get a little bit closer some dates for more open to everybody classes that people can sign up for. But there's a lot of things in the works. Definitely, check. If you follow us on Instagram and Facebook, we'll make sure that you guys are the first to hear about it.
Now, is it following Maniac Pumpkins? Is it following your personal? Because you guys have all
three.
Yeah, you have all three. So you have your own, Chris has his own, and then there's Maniac Pumpkins. So should they follow all of them?
Yeah, ideally follow all of them.
Okay.
Marc Maniac on Instagram, Chris Soria on Instagram, and Maniac Pumpkins. And but as we're getting closer to this, this is really kicking off the season for us. So today we posted about this, and that was the first post in quite a while. And you can expect regular content from here on out now. So we're gonna be dropping some greatest hits as we get started with the season, as well as a bunch of content that nobody's ever seen before from some secret projects at the end of last year. And so we've got kind of a backlog of stuff that nobody's seen before we even start carving this year.
Nice.
Right on.
Paul has been uniquely quiet, and
I was just thinking that. I'm like a little church mouse. I was just listening. I'm never this quiet. I actually was
rounded this guy off quick.
I was talking to myself about how quiet I was. No, I was enjoying the stories. I love hearing you guys talk about. I mean, I remember back when I first started carving, I caught you guys. It was on, I don't know, ABC News or something. It was something big enough that I saw it in Boston, and I was like, "Holy shit! These guys do this for a living." I gotta get my act together. I gotta do something. And yeah, I remember seeing you guys back in the day, and it was just like, whoa, they're doing stuff that I've never seen before. And then shortly thereafter, the Food Network thing, and it's just how fast this art form has kind of progressed is really impressive.
Yeah,
it is so cool how everybody kind of adds their own stuff to the mix. And one thing I would say to people who are kind of earlier on and getting into it and getting inspired, one of the things that was so important to us was pushing boundaries and trying to do things that we'd never seen anyone do before. It's like we definitely learned, it's like I remember seeing Martha Stewart using linoleum cutters when I was a kid, and it burned into my brain, and I was like, when me and Chris were trying to figure out how to really start including more detail in our pumpkins, I was like, well, what if we try those linoleum cutters that Martha Stewart used, and all of a sudden it was like worlds opened up. And then, when we were first sculpting, we were using like X-Acto blades and box cutters and, doing like 3D carvings with just tools that weren't great for it. Then Ray was probably the first person that we saw use a clay loop, and that opened a lot of doors. Just like the possibility of using different tools. But the thing is that we never wanted to do what someone else was doing with their pumpkins. We always wanted to do things that no one had seen before. So doing the favorite works of art from art history was something that we hadn't seen anybody do. We were like, we got to do it. Doing album covers, Chris, like year after year, was dropping album covers that were just mind blowing. And then people like, Nas would repost the album covers that Chris would carve.
Wow.
That kind of stuff was just priceless.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's also, making the stuff that resonates with people is definitely like a way to get noticed, but also those are the types of things that as me as an artist, like I just try to emulate that. Like I used to draw baseball logos all the time, and that's how I got into branding. That's how I basically got into graphic art. And you were talking about the tools as well, like seeing someone. The first thing I would have asked you is like, what are linoleum cutters? Like, what exactly do they do? Having that knowledge is really awesome.
So a linoleum cutter it's a tool that's used in printmaking, but it has interchangeable blades, different V's and U's, and it's very much like a cheaper version of wood carving tools. And
yes,
as after many years of using the linoleum cutters, then we kind of graduated to investing money into great wood carving tools, and yes, those are awesome too. But it really is. It's like the more you experiment with the tools and try and push the boundaries of what you're carving, and me and Chris have always had the benefit of having each other to try and impress each other. But so we always were trying to like not one up each other, but like impress each other, and who can do something that's going to make the other guy like get excited. And so it wasn't really, you said something of like crowd pleasers, and we weren't always so concerned about pleasing people externally. It was more about pleasing ourselves and doing things that got us excited about. Chris was saying earlier, the pop culture stuff, all of those influences, and finding the challenges there, and the things that we could just really get into and just have fun with. We wanted it to be, if it was fun for us, then we figured other people would like it and get excited.
Absolutely.
One of the Guerrilla things that we did early on was carve more sculptural pumpkins, but carve them and then put them around the neighborhood. So, like we did one with an alligator and then positioned it coming out of a sewer, and you can kind of tell it wasn't a real alligator, but what the heck is it? Because it looks like something. And I carved a hand, like I sculpted a hand out of a pumpkin, and I stuffed a bunch of money in it, and then I left it by like a school. So like some kid's gonna come up and he's gonna be like, "Oh my God, there's a severed hand with money shut." Like, and it kind of looks like it could be like a corpse hand because it's a pumpkin. So like it looks like it's got like tissue. It looks disgusting. Stuff like that. That we just kind of would have a lot of fun with. And yeah, I mean, having each other, Mark and I we would encourage each other. We would egg each other on. At 3 o'clock in the morning when we've been carving pumpkins for however many hours, it's definitely helpful to have somebody else like be like, "Yo, that looks really cool, bro."
Yes.
Rather than be by yourself and you're like, "I am so tired. I'm not sure how this is looking."
And that must be the worst feeling, like at 3 a.m. when you think you're not doing, you're like, where am I going with this? To have someone go, yeah, that looks pretty good. You're like, okay, thank God.
Yeah. Those were the early days. Nowadays, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and we look at each other like, yo, we got to get this done.
Yeah. Hurry up.
Past our bedtimes. We don't do all-nighters as well as we used to. You know, it takes its toll now.
I can imagine.
Well, the name Maniac, I don't know if we told you guys where the name Maniac came from. But it was really like, people thought we were dangerous, and I mean the chainsaw story is funny, but it started because we didn't sleep. We were like, you know, just working all night, all the time, grinding, trying to get stuff done, trying to, you know, fit more pumpkins into a day than what was possible. And people were like, you guys are maniacs. And we're like, that actually that works.
Yeah. A nod to like horror and slasher movies, and
it works.
We adopted it as our brand, and we never pluralize it. We never say we're maniacs. It's maniac. It's a state of mind.
Yeah.
Right.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
You also have the best slogan out there, Jack of all trades.
Jack.
Yeah, that's fantastic, by the way. We mark out for that a lot.
I actually wore my shirt so much you can't even tell what the logo. You can't even tell what's on it anymore.
We'll have to get you another one.
Oh, okay.
I
I even wore it at the Grand Canyon. I wear that shirt everywhere.
Nice.
Yeah, we did have a question. So we've kind of delved on this a little bit in our other shows. So you've been on shows before. How do you like the competitive pumpkin action, and would you ever do it again? Nobody wants to speak up first.
Well, it's a lot more fun to watch those shows than it is to compete in them. You know, it's the pressure of competition is intense. You guys all know what I'm talking about. I mean, maybe in the right situation, but I don't know. It's those shows put you through the ringer.
Then you're at the mercy of how they, even after the fact, how are you going to be portrayed?
True. Yeah, our business is such like an overwhelming production that it's its own form of competition, that me and Chris, you know, have so much stuff that we're juggling that to have to compete on camera, I don't know if it's in the cards for us anymore.
But me and Matt do it every Thursday night.
Yeah.
Notice we're not carving.
Yeah, sorry guys, I'm still waiting for somebody to chime in. Like, are your guests carving thing tonight?
Yeah, in fact, that question was asked. So, that question was asked actually. So, but there's a thing in professional wrestling that they talk about. It's like popping the crowd. So, doing something that you know will get a reaction, right? But and I noticed this between Matt and Paul. Like they there is a little internal, a competition, and Paul wants to win every single time. He said that before.
No, it's not a competition, but if I finish first, I win.
Yes, exactly. And he's a leader on. He goes into the clubhouse in the lead, right, Paul?
Sometimes. Then I don't come out of the clubhouse for 3 or 4 days.
But yeah, it's I think that's super important, you know, to do the things that you know your community and your close people are definitely influenced by, and that's how we created this. We're all into this, and it's just like bringing those people in and talking to them and just getting excited about what you do every single day. And one thing that you know we haven't shown, which I'm going to show now, is nice. Your painting work. I don't think we showed any of this the last time, so I really wanted to go through this, and this is super impressive because I mean this is where I started. I started as a sign painter, and to do this it's very impressive because it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of planning. That's the biggest thing, the biggest planning part of it. But to see, a lot of this type of work and how intricate and how great it is. I mean, like, how long would it take to do something like this?
I mean, the funny thing about these couple of murals that you just showed is that we always giggle a little bit when we do this. Yeah, as we mentioned earlier, for our pumpkin studio, every year we get a pop-up studio, so we have to find a space, and we have to find which isn't easy to do, and we have to have the insurance, and make sure that it can accommodate what we need to do, and of course meet the building owner, property manager, and get in there, and then we have all of our equipment in a storage facility, and we have to get it and bring it in there and set up all of our shelving and tables and get all of our equipment out, and we don't have time for much of anything else. But one thing that we always make time for is kind of blessing the studio space with a new mural that we're only going to be in the studio space for maybe 1 month, 4 weeks, maybe 6 weeks, but we always want to customize it. So these murals that we painted for, in this case, our studio space from a couple years ago, we have all this stuff on our plate, but we feel compelled to bring our mural skills to the table and kind of
brand it. Yeah, you're
brand it. Yeah.
Part of it, we're always coming off the summer season when we are doing a lot of murals and a lot of painting, and so it's already in our blood, and we're in that mindset. But we'll get the studio, and we may have pumpkins that we want to start working on, but the first thing that we got to do is we got to make the studio feel like home.
Yeah.
It's often just some of the places that we've gotten were these big vacant warehouses or empty storefronts, different types of incredible spaces for our operation, but it doesn't feel like home until we get our artwork up, a logo up, start decorating the place a little bit and making it feel like a place where we would want to hang out and carve pumpkins. We've had some great spaces, but until the art goes up, it's not home.
Yeah.
And so, but we got to be fast. It's like with everything that we do, these aren't projects that we have a lot of time to just dabble with and take our time with. When we're doing a mural in the studio, it could be 15, 20 feet tall, but we gotta still do it in 3 days. It's gotta get it done.
Yeah, and some of the other examples. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was saying even a day. I mean, we gotta get it done in a day. Maybe we wrapped it up the next day, but in most cases, we don't have too much time to spend too much on a mural. But I mean, we're spending a lot of time in the studio. We are doing, interviews here and there at the studio. We're taking photos at the studio, and we need a cool background. We definitely want to brand it and make it feel at home.
It makes for great shots too. It's it pays off, and just in setting the vibe, but also, when a camera crew shows up to film us in the studio and there's a big mural, it's another thing to get some cool shots of.
Right.
That picture alone is amazing.
It's super amazing. And I mean, I'm going to flip through some other stuff here that you don't. How did these things come about?
That photo is that I was on top of a ladder too.
Wow. Oh, were you really? Oh, wow. Yeah, you can't even tell. But some of this type of stuff, obviously working with a city.
Yeah, so cool, Chris. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So the outside of pumpkin season, Mark and I do a lot of our own artwork, predominantly painting, and we do a lot of murals. So these are I sent you guys some photos of some recent murals that I've done. This one I painted a little over a year ago during the very beginning of COVID shutdown, but it's somewhat recent. And this is a 4,000 square foot tunnel on the landing of the Governor Mario Cuomo Bridge, also known as the Tappan Zee Bridge, and that connects Westchester and Rockland County and the Lower Hudson Valley in New York. and it was a statewide grant that I created this kaleidoscopic design for that celebrated the biodiversity of the Lower Hudson Valley.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
Absolutely outstanding. I think I have another example of it later. Go ahead, Paul.
Didn't Cuomo just have to resign for doing a little Tappan-Zee?
Oh,
Too soon? Too soon. Sorry, I've been quiet. I had to get something in.
Paul has been taking shots at New York for 2 weeks straight now.
Yeah.
His
yeah.
father
I've
was
been
a
like,
rel-
can I still keep
like,
my mural?
official.
It's
Awesome.
all love and respect.
Of course. And you know, like, I mean,
That's
some beautiful work here, and you know, I'm going to go to this. It's kind of a continuation of it, but I'm going to go back to this so we can see it. But you know, it's all interconnected. Like, how did these projects come together as well?
Well, this one was a recent commission from Lululemon, the athletic brand, and this is their store in Soho that I painted. It's two floors, so this was the lower floor, and then there's an upper floor. And you know, you might notice if you've seen some of my work that I kind of dabble in abstract geometry and kind of playing with these isometric geometric configurations, and then often you know, combine them with figurative or representational subject matter, organic subject matter that you know, in this case, these athletic poses by these figures contrasted with these geometric configurations that I you know, original artwork that I designed for the job and painted at their Soho store.
Yeah.
it flows so well. It's like the geometric part. In my brain, I never think the organic human form in a pose like that, coupled with those geometric forms, it just plays so well. Anyway,
It's great. Just gorgeous.
Yeah, they pair nicely.
Yeah.
I also these are ones where you know, more subjects from nature. So this was a series of murals that I painted for this shopping center called Ridge Hill in Yonkers, and you know, kind of focused on these pollinators and pollinating plants and indigenous plants from the region that, you know, I paired with geometric backgrounds and you know, color families that I coupled with these arrangements of plants and insects and different pollinators.
Yeah, just fascinating
so
work.
amazing.
Yeah, just absolutely outstanding. Like I said, we could have another 3 hours of just going over all these things and how amazing they are.
That's a cool picture.
Yeah, and this one's super cool. And then, you know, here's another one from what you had before. So another view of that one is so cool. This one was interesting. Where is this one? I'm very interested in where.
This one was a collaboration that me and Chris did for the WWE for a WrestleMania event that was in New York a few years ago.
Okay.
And they were inducting DX into the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
And so they had, you know, I don't know if you guys remember the DX crew,
Sure.
but they had all the different memorabilia, you know, from DX over the years, and they gave us a lot of creative freedom to create a mural that was inspired by DX, and we just went wild with it and really had, you know, a blast. And it's like 20 feet tall and 30 or 40 feet wide. And that one we did, I think, in 4 days. You know, we just
Dear God.
You have a
Oh,
video of
I
that,
know.
actually, don't you?
Sometimes I forget how awesome this piece is because I feel like since we finished it, I've only looked at it like on my phone if we posted it or whatnot, and now I'm looking at it again on my screen and
this is
kind of
fun.
remembering like, oh, this is such a rad piece. Yeah, we did this like in like maybe 4 days, and had a blast. And this is kind of like, you could see, Mark and I make, quite a range of different types of artwork. But, like I said, like a lot of the things that I play with are these like isometric configurations are very signature for me. And then, Mark can explain kind of what he does, but, his artwork is very psychedelic.
Yes.
And employing this like organic, psychedelic pareidolia, like clouds that take on like other imagery that are quite trippy, and him and I, when we get together and we paint, it's a cool contrast of elements.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's always fun mixing the organic and the geometric, and that concept of pareidolia is one that I have been playing with for a long time. I love trying to capture that feeling that things are like amorphous clouds that are shifting and forming into different things, and the more you look at it, you find different things within the shapes, and some are intentionally there, and some your mind is piecing together. The idea of pareidolia, that it's really like the game of finding animals in clouds. It's your brain recognizing pattern in kind of random data, and so I play with that in my art a lot. Making random marks, spilling ink, finding forms in the random textures, and it's fun going in with that, and it's like always this exploration and journey, trying to see where it goes and what you could pull out of it.
Yeah.
Mickey, the next time I'm on my back swimming and looking up at clouds, doing exactly that, I now know what it's called. So thank you.
Exactly. And if you use it in Scrabble, it's a double word score, by the way.
Yeah.
But so did the WWE did they creative direct this as well? The reason why I asked that is there's one thing that the wavelength in there is actually from their like Titantron. So it's like when they hit the first beat, it actually has the wavelength, and you would only know that if you knew DX.
So you are very observant, and that was the one note of creative direction that we got.
Mickey.
Did we get that from them, or did we incorporate it because it was? I think you're right. Yeah.
I think it was something that we wanted to incorporate it, and then they gave us notes on like how they wanted that. That was the only adjustment. There was like one tweak, and they wanted like a specific note for the wavelength. I don't remember exactly what the direction was, but that was like the one thing that they, we pitched a couple different ideas. It was a tight turnaround, and our buddy, old friend of ours, Mike Delaporte, he's one of the art directors at WWE, and he, put us in contact with the people that were putting on the event, and it was cool. We got to work with the WWE Hall of Fame archivist. He was the one who was really like art directing this project, and we got very few notes. They wanted us to do something in our style that honored DX, and we showed a couple sketches, and they said which one they liked the best, and they gave us a couple notes on the wavelength, and then let us run with it. And
that's awesome.
The piece definitely evolved on the wall. It's one of those things where like we had some ideas, the basic composition laid out, and then we got there and really like just went crazy on it.
That's incredible. Well, I wanted to, we've got an hour and 20 minutes, and so I wanted to acknowledge some of the questions real quick in the comments. When artists like Mark do their live streams while working at night, that really helps people who are trying to stay awake in their studios. That's a very nice compliment. How do you go about sourcing your pumpkins? How do you think your team carves in a year typically? You guys are awesome.
Well, first of all, I just want to give a shout out because Joey Edwards is an amazing carver himself. You know, he does a lot of work in the foam pumpkins. Yeah, he crushes it with those. So thanks for tuning in, Joey. I have no clue. You know, we carve so many pumpkins throughout the season. You know, our team collectively, the pumpkins that we're carving in classes and demos and events. You know, we work with local growers in the New York tri-state area. One of our buddies who we met in the, Union Square Farmers Market many, many years ago, Kevin from Sycamore Farms, he changed the way he grew pumpkins to kind of meet the needs that we had. You know, we were telling him what we were looking for in pumpkins, and he, started increasing his output and yields of pumpkins for us in a lot of ways. And it was just like awesome to work directly with the farmer to grow the type of pumpkins that we wanted for our carvings. And he's like the the unofficial Maniac team member, because he does so much for us besides growing the pumpkins. We call him up, tell him how many pumpkins we need and where, and he shows up with the truck, happy to like toss pumpkins. And he's just an amazing asset to us, and such a great friend in that he grows pumpkins for us, but he also will help us build stuff if we need it. He'll help us, if we have an event in wherever it is, he'll drive the truck to meet us with pumpkins. Just a really great asset and friend.
You need a hay maze? I can build a hay maze.
Yeah. He's the kind of guy that never says no to, if he thinks it's going to be fun and, and be able to make some money at the same time, it's like he's always on board. And, that's one of the things that we love.
That's so cool. Do you have a favorite variety? Because I know everyone has their favorite variety they grow. And do you have a favorite?
I don't know. There's a few different ones that I know. There's the Wolves and Fat Jacks, and there's a few different ones. We like big pumpkins and thick stems and thick rind.
Yeah.
Big heavy pumpkins.
It kind of all depends. Also, on what we need. Oftentimes, we need the Wolves or the Fat Jacks or like a big pumpkin for stuff like, portraits or like sculptures. And then sometimes we'll hit a certain part of the season where, we have a big order of, of more traditional jack-o'-lanterns, which I don't know if we touched upon, but, we actually do end up carving really, timeless classic jack-o'-lanterns, but we'll carve them by dozen for, sometimes for hotels or as centerpieces for weddings. And, sometimes, depending on the time of the season, we'll need a lot of those kind of average squared pumpkins. And, all we have are 16-inch, 2 foot,
gorgeous pumpkins.
Pumpkins.
Yeah. You don't want to get rid of it.
But sometimes all we have are the really gorgeous ones, and we can't bring ourselves to take them off the shelf and turn them into jack-o'-lanterns. Yeah. So, also, both, where we're getting the pumpkins from, we're working with, a couple of different farms, but sometimes, we need more, sometimes we need Atlantic giants, and those particular farms don't necessarily grow Atlantic giants, so we have to get from another farm. Okay. And, as you guys know, it's not always every year the pumpkins are different. So, what one farm is growing, last year it may be, a different crop this year. And, so we have to kind of figure out who's got what and where we could source, different pumpkins that we need for different purposes.
Right.
What's kind of an interesting note on the pumpkins is that a lot of people don't realize, the orders that we do closer to Halloween, and we're the peak of the season. You want your best stuff for Halloween, but the pumpkins are so much fresher and better to carve earlier in the season.
Yeah.
And so by the time you get to Halloween, like, the pumpkins aren't in their best shape, and it always kills it. We're like, looking for the perfect pumpkin to carve this like masterpiece for a Halloween event. And, a lot of the pumpkins are starting to look a little sadder at that point. So we have to have so many more pumpkins than what we're actually going to carve. So that way we still have, perfect ones for our orders. And we really have to have variety to choose from. When we start running low on pumpkins, we're like, it's not just like, all right, let's get another half dozen. It's like, we got to get another 100 pumpkins in the studio.
Yeah.
Gaylords.
Yeah. And Tony wants to know if the heavy rain in the Northeast will result in bigger or better pumpkins.
Should.
It's always, pumpkin growing is like, it's such a weird component of our art form that we have to contend with, that like, depending on if there's, a lot of rain is necessary for pumpkins, but they also need a lot of sun. And if there's too much rain, then they get,
moldy.
The mold and the vine rot. And if there's too little, in droughts, it's trouble. So, I'm hearing that it's a good year, good season for pumpkins so far. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. And Brianna wants to know, are you hiring any interns?
Always looking for help. It's you gotta be willing to contend with some crazy,
Maniacs.
Pumpkin, a lot.
That's the word I'm looking for.
The smell of pumpkins all day, but yeah, we're always looking for new team members. It's just, it really is like, it becomes very much like, when we're adding people to the crew, it's not just a skill level thing or, an artistic thing. We really are looking for people that fit personality wise in with the crew, and because we're spending a lot of time together, and the personalities have to really mesh, and we always, every year we add a few new faces, and we always seem to get really lucky and find some gems.
There you go.
Hopefully this year will be the same.
Yeah, inquire within. So you're saying, so that's good. That's good. That's good news. I definitely wanted to go around, and I wanted to see what Matt and Paul are creating. So Matt, I'm going to go with you first.
You went to me first, you bastard.
Of course.
All right. So I can't think of this guy without quarantine mask, but he's busting out of it. So, this is a sweet potato. I found out today this is Potato Day, thanks to Ray.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And so I found a sweet potato. And before I show you this, hang on. Look at this thing. Whoa. And this thing, just for context, here's my beer. Here's a beer can next to it.
I might have to digitize this out.
Yeah, this is
Hi, everybody.
We might get booted. And so I was actually thinking of how do I carve a hysterical quarantine person with that, and nothing came to me. But I saw this guy, and he's got this really natural little squiggle on top that was just beautiful. And anyway, so his mask is not being properly worn. His mouth is coming out the bottom, and I'm going to do teeth and eyes and all this stuff. But right now it's just he's roughed out.
Love it.
Nice.
Love it.
One of my favorite things that you do, Matt, is you can see where you're going. I am lost till about 3 seconds from home. I don't know how I find my way, but somehow I find my way. I have been just scraping at this thing, trying to make him look somewhat hysterical. I was like,
oh, he is. Yeah.
Maybe you know what? Maybe I'll do is I'll put him next to yours, and he'll be one of those the hypochondriacs that'll like, your nose is exposed. Your nose is exposed.
Sir.
Can you wear your mask properly, please?
Yeah, please wear it properly. I'm gonna put it there. Yeah.
Yeah, that guy's coming out cool. I love this challenge. I love the kind
wheel?
of
The center spinner.
you can only prepare so much, especially in this case. I mean, I just came up with quarantine an hour ago, and you guys went with it. It's very impressive.
Well, I'm impressed that you came up with quarantine because we usually sit the night before and go.
Yeah.
No, that sucks. No, that's stupid.
No idea.
No, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, that's me. I'm like, no, that one sucks. We can't do that. We already
You
did
know
that
what? When
night.
you said quarantine though, Chris, I was like, you know what? It's not so bad. I don't want to do that one, but it's not so bad because we have so many other choices. And of course.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, now you really got to think. But yeah,
That's it. No, I like it. That's like Mark and Mark. I always kind of reference you that time that you said, if you're not uncomfortable, then you're not going to become a better artist, right? So that's where the wheel kind of came from. Is we wanted to give ourselves so much anxiety that we couldn't concentrate for the entire time. But it's worked out. I mean,
I'm glad I was able to help push you guys through your comfort zone. That's
thank you. My comfort zone was on like the 5th floor too, so you pushed me out the window.
Says the guys who didn't carve anything tonight.
Yeah, right. Look how comfort zone you guys are. Look at that, laying back, beautiful artwork.
Yeah.
Well, what we'll do is we'll get to the certain point tonight, and then, I'll wrap it up, and then go at it with a fresh set of eyes, which is another thing we talked about, right? Sometimes
that helps a lot.
And I will come back. I mean, not so much. This one will probably change direction completely. I'll look at it tomorrow and be like, oh, now I see where it's got to go.
Yeah.
So,
always.
It's always changing.
Yeah.
Hey, Dean.
Dean says the season is getting close. It is. I mean, it's
here,
literally
Dean.
right around the corner.
Yeah, it's kind of here.
2 months away.
Start carving, guys. Carve along with us.
You know, the bellwether for me is the Spirit Halloween vultures. When you start seeing a Toys R Us sign and you see Spirit Halloween plastered over it, and
The
this happened-
silhouette of the Toys R Us sign.
right. And 2 weeks ago it happened here. I'm like, wow, that's early. And it's like that's just kind of I think it was the last week of July. I think I saw my very first one, which is like earliest ever. But it just proves it's more important than any other holiday. So
That's what I say. You know what that means? It's the new Christmas.
that's right.
Yeah.
Somehow.
It's a less expensive. Well, I can't even say less expensive
No.
Christmas because
No,
everybody
no.
puts money into it. But you're not buying stuff for everybody else. You're buying stuff for yourself.
It's the bestest of all the holidays.
Agreed. Agreed. So, so Mark and Chris, thank you so much for joining us yet again. And if we could have you back next week and continue this conversation. Actually, this might be true because we actually are still tentative with our guests, correct?
We have a guest for next week.
Yes.
We're good.
Yeah,
We have a lot of guests.
We're very blessed with our guests, and Mark and Chris are definitely high on our list. And thank you for joining us early, but also thank you for joining us in the second season. Where can we find your work? Where can people get in touch with you and know more about Maniac Pumpkins?
Well, at Maniac Pumpkins is our Instagram. You can find us maniacpumpkins.com. Maniac Pumpkins is also on Facebook. Instagram tends to be the place where we are the most up to date with posting new work, and we'll drop some info there as well on like upcoming events and things. But also follow our individual Instagrams at Marc Maniac and at Chris Soria. And guys, it's been so much fun. It's an honor to do this with you guys. Maybe next time I'll actually be ready to carve and join you guys with some carving.
We're gonna hold you to that.
This is recorded, right? This is recorded. We can go back and hear you saying that.
Exactly.
But you guys,
Plenty of carving.
so much fun. We'll have to join in with some carving at some point.
Chris, did you have anything that you wanted to promote?
No, Mark said it all. You could check out, through our Instagram at Maniac Pumpkins, is a link to our personal IGs, and on our personal IGs is a link to our websites, and that's how you can get in touch with us. We appreciate all the interaction and likes and shares, and we get we're very inspired by you guys and by so many other artists out there. It's a very reciprocal inspiration. So thank you for inspiring us and creating and making just out of the love of making art.
Thank you so much. That's I mean, Matt, Paul, did you guys have anything that you wanted to promote?
Yeah, just the shirts they're wearing. Go get those shirts. They're awesome. I literally wore mine out. That's how much I loved it.
Mark and I were just saying this is. Actually, we do wear these shirts a lot. This is like our go-to T-shirt.
That's awesome.
This is probably like the first time of the year I'm deliberately wearing it.
I live in mine, so.
Well, it seems to me we should have some Carvers and Creators uniforms. No? Yes?
Probably about time.
Okay.
We may have one. We may already have one. I just don't know where it is at the moment, but I do. I have this shirt on. Look at this shirt. That's a pretty good one.
There you go.
we collect them. I mean, we love. We got our Villa Fane Studios T-shirts. We got our Lenny Calvin T-shirts.
Oh,
we got to get everybody else's pumpkin T-shirt too.
Definitely.
We got to get them out to you.
Definitely.
Yeah, the mutual support in the community is so awesome, and it's always so exciting to see what other people are doing, and it's like, the way me and Chris were talking about our trying to excite each other to raise the bar. It's also goes throughout the community too. It's like when we see things that you guys are doing, when we see things that Sue, Beatrice, and Andy are doing, and Ray, and
mind blowing.
People doing such great work that everybody keeps raising the bar and throwing the gauntlet down. It's like you got to keep stepping up the game. And I saw Dean Murray commenting. He's always doing amazing things. It's always so much fun to see what people are creating. Yeah, already booked up. Congrats, Dean. That's great to hear.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
We're excited for another busy season, and we just every year it seems to keep growing, and it's like a testament to the popularity of Halloween and pumpkin carving, and just it's like the work that everybody's doing in the community just continues building all of the excitement up, and it's great to see each season.
I agree.
And if doing this show weekly is pushing this craft and this medium forward, like we'll do it every single week until we can't do it anymore. We're inspired by everybody that's on the show. So thank you so much for joining us. Here is where you can find us. We are on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch. And we will be here next Thursday with another Carvers and Creators, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. Thank you so much. Maniac Pumpkin Carvers, always a pleasure.
Mark and Chris, thank you.
Yes, hopefully we can see you one day in person. And if not, we'll definitely have you back. So good night, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Night, everybody.